Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can see, we're well, you can't see, but as you can see by the title, I'm gonna be responding to a video Thought Slime made in 2018 because I had a leftist send me the link to this video as a supposed way to debunk capitalism as being voluntary. And I watched the video, and then I laughed to myself and I thought, this would be a good video to respond to on my channel. So that's what we're doing now. We're gonna watch this video, and I'm just gonna talk through bit by bit and explain why every single thing he says is wrong. Well, for the most part. So let's get into it. Let's just laugh at him, and yeah, it'll be a fun video.
Here's something that ANCAPs and ANCOMs alike don't actually know. You can live without a job. You just want to live luxuriously. Find a YouTube channel called Primitive Technology. Every single person who currently lives in poverty, if they really tried, could walk out into the wilderness and live in the Paleolithic era.
Jesus, pleases. That's part of a real comment I got on my video about why ANCAPs are not anarchists, and it contains what I am forced to assume is a real opinion that Richard Black holds and is willing to admit out loud. I mean, really, this is just a poorly
I'm sorry, I love his shirt because it's probably true.
construed version of the most common rebuttal I get to any content I make that criticizes capitalism. Hey guy, capitalism is voluntary.
Which it is, and we're gonna cover that today and debunk his video.
I mean, if you think about it, that's the moral basis for free market capitalism. The market is made up of people making choices to trade things with one another. So don't complain about it because it's your choice, you knucklehead.
Exactly.
You can just pack your bags and move away. Build a new non-capitalist society like Richard Black suggests. Just walk into the woods and build yourself a mud hut. And you know what? That'd actually work. If nobody on Earth was disabled, infirm, needed medicine, or lived in an area with an inhospitable climate.
Okay, let's go ahead and get that out of the way, because I don't know if that's supposed to be like a gotcha moment, but it's really not. It's really not. You can make up a hypothetical where someone can't do something. It's like saying, oh, well, socialism would work, if I was alive. Yeah, gotcha. No, that's not a gotcha moment. Capitalism can still be entirely voluntary, and people can still obviously have outside troubles which the world causes that are not inherently caused by conscious actors. It's pretty straightforward there.
Also, everyone had access to the huge tracts of land needed to grow food without modern infrastructure. Also, the capitalist societies that they currently live in, just let them go, and also waive property taxes for this anti-capitalist experiment.
So I'm just gonna stop him right there because once again he's conflating a few things. He's making a few mistakes here already. Because okay, here's the deal. If he's going to be arguing that capitalism isn't voluntary, okay, I would not have any problem arguing the same exact thing if we're talking about a more authoritarian capitalism, okay? If we're talking about where the government taxes people and forces them to do things and uses coercion against them, then yes, I would agree with him. But in order for his premise to be sound, we must first assume a type of capitalism that is not coercion, that is voluntary. And that type of capitalism would not have the government taxing tracts of land, would not have governmental control of anything. Because of this, he cannot make this argument. He cannot make this straw man here that essentially is saying, well, capitalism would force you to stay within capitalism. Because if we're talking about capitalism being voluntary, we can't assume that there are multiple, let's say, faucets of capitalism, you could say. And true voluntary capitalism would not have these problems. Continue on, though.
Some reason. Also, the capitalists wouldn't just take all of your stuff if you started making something profitable or useful to them.
Once again, that's not capitalism. That is not where, this is, he's getting worse and worse. This isn't even capitalism at this point that he's talking about. That's just theft. That can happen in any society. It's like saying, well, I was hoping that my socialist society would be successful, but what if other socialists stole my socialist stuff? What if someone took over my little commune and forced everyone else to work for them? Oh no, argument against socialism. No, it's not. No, that's the most ridiculous and mind-numbing argument I have ever heard. I wouldn't even call it an argument. It's just horrifyingly wrong. He keeps, I would say changing the goalposts, because at first he says he's going to explain why it's, not voluntary. And then he says this, and that's not capitalism. Theft is not capitalism. Theft is theft. Those are two inherently different, basically different things, which he's talking about there. And he seems to be, confused a bit. But continuing on.
Even though they'd have the largest militaries in the world at their back, and you literally live in a mud hut. Also, you don't care about leaving your friends, family, and home behind? But, okay, alright, but even granting all of those things,
yes,
it's still a pretty raw deal. Would you accept living in a communist dictatorship under the proviso that you could, if you so chose, walk into the woods and start a new society?
It wouldn't be a dictatorship then. It would literally not be a dictatorship if you could do that. I don't know what this guy is talking about, but dictators have absolute control or power over their countries. You can't just walk out of a dictatorship. You can't just say, well, this is my land which I bought. Okay, you can't say this is my land which I own, and therefore I am not going to pay your taxes or follow your laws on this land. Because it's a dictatorship. If you could do that, it wouldn't be a dictatorship. So no one would be living under a dictatorship. I don't get the argument here. Continuing on.
Would having that option make the actions of a communist dictator just?
No, it would make them non-existent.
No, obviously not. Having the option to flee a system does not make that system voluntary. It just gives you the option of becoming a refugee. But
you wouldn't have the option to flee it if it was voluntary. If it was voluntary, you would have the option to remain within the system and create your own system, which is not affected by the system you remain in. Essentially what I mean by that, and this is a problem I have with a lot of, I would say, people who don't understand ethics, is they'll say, well, it's ethical to tax people. Problem is, they only think it's ethical to tax certain amounts. Maybe they want a little amount of taxes, maybe they want a lot of taxes. Either way, they're lying to themselves, because it's just what they want. Here's the deal which we need to understand. If something is voluntary, okay, like this example he gives, if it's voluntary, you won't have to flee the country. All you will have to do is say, this is my property, I'm going to do on it what I want. Let's say I own this property right now. Let's say I own some property. I own, let's say, 100 acres, and I say, well, guess what? I want to build a commune on it. I want to become a socialist commune. Under a voluntary society, you would be able to do that. There's none of this dictatorship hypotheticals, because they don't even work in this situation. Continuing on.
Let's face it, the idea that anyone can walk away from their current civilization into the woods and start a new society from scratch is a fantasy. It's not like Minecraft. You can't just walk into the woods, punch a few trees, and build a village. All of the land and resources you'd need are either owned privately or assumed to be de facto owned by whatever government lays claim to your particular location. The actual reality of the matter is, you don't have a choice but to live within capitalism.
If it's true capitalism, yes, you do.
As long as
that's just a lie. That's a bold-faced lie.
Capitalism maintains hegemonic control over the place you live, you are forced to participate, even if you don't want to. Capitalists are right to say that the choices they make within capitalism are usually voluntary. Nobody is able to compel you to buy one type of toothpaste over another, or to buy toothpaste at all. Hey man, if you don't care about your teeth falling out, that's your business. That's freedom. But let me ask you this. What does it truly mean for something to be voluntary? And I don't mean that in some wishy-washy, does free will exist type of way. Look at it this way. If you're mugged, is giving your money to the mugger voluntary? No.
No. What is this? What is this? This is like children's ethics. This is what you would read in a nursery rhyme. Just get to the point, honestly.
No? Why not? You chose to do it.
No, you...
Well, in order for...
Okay, see this guy? Yeah, no, he has issues. But you don't choose to do something under the effect of coercion. It's that simple. That's the statement. Non-aggression principle. Capitalism is free trade. It's not, oh, you have to pay me this or I'm going to shoot you. That's not free trade. That's not that is not something which people opt into. That is not a contractual agreement. I don't get what he's saying at this point. It's honestly a bit scary, but continuing on.
For a choice to be voluntary, you have to be free to not choose it without harm coming to you. It really doesn't matter if the cause of that harm is implicit in the choice or the result of human coercion, much to the chagrin of right libertarians who insist only the latter counts and twist themselves into knots trying to justify that position.
Now, the funny thing is, he says that doesn't matter, but he doesn't explain why. He just says it. He says it as a fact and expects us to accept it as such. But here's the question. Let's take all other human interaction out of the picture. Let's say I'm starving on an island. What exactly coerced me? What coerced me? Seriously, I would love for someone to explain that to me. Coercion is compelling a party to act in an involuntary manner by use of threats or force. This is the literal definition of coercion. Okay, it's not that complicated to realize that inherent acts of nature are not coercion. It is only human interaction which can cause coercion. Action between one conscious actor and another.
My choice to eat or sleep is not voluntary. I have to do those things because I'll die if I don't, and I don't want to die. I got too many cartoons to watch. I am, however, not forced by any other party to eat or sleep. I have the option to not sleep if I choose to, but it's not a meaningful choice because of the dying. Likewise, I could in theory choose not to sell my labor to my boss. No one is compelling me to do it by force, but I wouldn't have access to all of the things that I need to live if I didn't. I could choose to work for someone else, but I couldn't choose not to have a job at all. Even if I like my job, doing it is still not voluntary, because I have to have a job or I'll be destitute. And that's fine, but it presents a few problems. Like, it ruins our ability to negotiate for better conditions, more control over our workplace, or better pay.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Now, I think the problem with this guy is he's running into a little issue with how he defines voluntary. Voluntary is defined as done or undertaken of one's own free will, or normally controlled by or subject to individual volition. Now, the thing with voluntary, okay, is you do decide, because there is no coercion, you are the deciding factor in if you want to eat or not. That is why some people commit suicide, because they have decided they do not want to live. It's really simple to understand that. If there is not an outside actor which is causing you to make a decision which you do not want to make, it is fully your decision. Yes, you could argue it is not meaningful because you want to live. That is similar to me saying it is not a meaningful decision if I want a cupcake or a pie because I would take a pie all the time. It is still a very meaningful and voluntary decision, which is not coercion. It's that simple. Different decisions matter differently to different people. Now, just because you would never make a certain decision does not mean it is not a voluntary decision. It is still done or undertaken by your own free will, and it is not the subject of outside coercion. This is why capitalism is voluntary, because every single choice you make is done by your own decision, at least under true capitalism.
You have to work to live. But the boss doesn't need you specifically for anything. They just need people like you. They can get rid of you if you're too difficult, because there are a lot more people like you than there are jobs available. Ah, but KC, you say. Just work somewhere else, or start your own business.
So, honestly, I think I'm going to stop it here because this video is getting a bit long. we're going to finish this video tomorrow. We're going to finish watching good old KC, as he likes to call himself, tomorrow, and just laughing at the horrendous arguments he has for his position, because quite honestly, that's all he's deserving of. But anyways, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.